The Independent, and the Two River Times, and by posting at the Middletown Township Municipal Building and filing with the Township Clerk all on January 18, 2018. Committeeman Hybo.
Here.
Committeeman Perry.
Here.
Committeewoman Snow.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Here.
Mayor Sedambrino.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. At this time, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence to honor the troops serving worldwide, defending our constitutions, freedoms, and way of life. Thank you. First item on tonight's agenda, we have the administration of oath of office. At this time, I'd like to invite Sergeant Anthony Vigilio and his family to please come forward.
I, Anthony Vigilio,
I, Anthony Vigilio,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same and to the governments established in the United States
to the state and to the governments established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and I do swear to faithfully,
and I do swear to faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all of the duties of the police lieutenant
all of the duties of police lieutenant
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God. Congratulations.
At this time, I'd like to invite Police Officer Brian Dilworth to please come forward with your family.
I, Brian Dilworth,
I, Brian Dilworth,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same and to the governments
to the same and to the government
established in the United States
established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and I do swear to faithfully,
and I do swear to faithfully,
impartially, and justly
impartially, and justly
perform all of the duties of police sergeant
perform all the duties of police sergeant
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
The promotions this evening is a result of a retirement that occurred last month, so I'd like to thank the mayor and the committee for allowing us to move forward with promotions as quickly as we did. Two outstanding candidates, both hometown heroes and lifelong residents. Lieutenant Vigilio, a graduate of Middletown North, Montclair State University, graduated Monmouth County Police Academy, joined the department in 1998 until he was promoted to sergeant in 2009, and now lieutenant in 2018. He's also a member of our emergency services unit as a crisis negotiator. Sergeant Dilworth is also a local resident, graduate of Middletown South, where he played football. Wagner College, where he also played football. Graduated Cape May County Police Academy in 2005, and has been a field training officer with the department, and sergeant this year in 2018. So, couldn't ask for 200 candidates. I'm confident in that standing. So, congratulations.
Our next item on tonight's agenda, we have certificates of appreciation proclamation. Just to note for the record, we have a proclamation recognizing October 2018 as National Substance Abuse Prevention Month in the Township of Middletown, and a proclamation recognizing October 2018 as Make a Difference Month in the Township of Middletown. At this time, we have approval of minutes for the September 4th, 2018 workshop meeting. Committeeman Hybel?
Yes.
Committeeman Perry?
Yes.
Committeewoman Snell? Deputy Mayor Fiore?
Yes.
Mayor Sandri?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt. At this time, we have a scheduled public hearing.
So, public hearing 2018-3236. I will motion to move this to the date certain, November 19th, 2018.
Committeeman Heidel.
Yes.
Committeeman Perry.
Yes.
Committeewoman Snow. Deputy Mayor Fiore. Mayor Sedambrino. Motion carries to move this public hearing to November 19, 2018. Our next item on tonight's agenda, a public hearing, 2018-3238, an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of certain real property identified as Block 542, Lots 42 and 43, on the official tax map of the Township of Middletown, commonly known as 480 State Highway 36.
Anyone wishing to be heard on 2018-3238? This is with regard to 2018-3238, is that better? Any member of the public wishing to be heard with regard to this order? Don? Yes, sir. Well, this is still clerk.
Good evening, my name is Don Watson, I'm on Collison Drive.
No, is
Is this microphone on?
so I'd like our administrator to take a moment with regard to this ordinance 23, please.
Yeah. The purpose of this is that the township needs a space to accommodate impounded vehicles. As you know, we keep them right now on Kelsey Lane. And so we're going to be acquiring this property and making it a vehicle impound facility. And we will also begin, turn it into a towing yard so that in the future when vehicles are towed within the township, they'll take them to that facility as opposed to various companies around town. And so we hope it does be a bit of a revenue booster for the township. And yes, but there is a billboard on the property, and we'll just continue to operate. So we'll eventually become a new owner, and the billboard company will lease it from us instead of the current owner.
Right, that's my understanding when I read the ordinance. This is right next to the VFW, right?
Yes, and it's right next to the propane storage facility. Yeah.
I was wondering about that, because a year or so ago, we allowed multi-family houses and stuff
It was
like
a lot more than a year ago. But yeah, it was quite a long time ago, but that never happened.
that. Yeah, right, okay. Thanks for your explanation.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard? All right, seeing none, I'll move to close the public hearing and adopt.
Committeeman Heidel.
Yes.
Committeeman Perry.
Yes.
Committeewoman Snow. Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Yes.
Mayor Sedambrino.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt this ordinance on second and final reading. At this time, we have consent agenda, which would include resolutions 18-213 through 18-220, including 18-222, and bingo and raffle applications.
Motion to adopt consent agenda, please. Second.
Committeeman Heidel.
Yes.
Committeeman Perry.
Yes.
Committeewoman Snow. Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Yes.
Mayor Sedambrino.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt consent agenda. At this time, we have the Township Committee acting as the ABC issuing authority. We have 18-221, a resolution renewing license 133133001 for Carl Bagstad, Executor of the State of Tessie Bagstad.
A motion to approve, please.
Committeeman Heidel.
Yes.
Committeeman Perry.
Yes.
Committeewoman Snow. Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Yes.
Mayor Sedambrino.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 18-221. This time we have Township Committee comments.
Thank you. Committeeman Heidel.
All right, great. Chief, thank you for motion your officers. That was great. I always feel very great to see all the police officers in the room. Makes us feel really comfortable. And thank you for the great job that you guys do. Looking forward to seeing everyone out there in Middletown today. So that's all I have.
Committeewoman Snell.
I would like to say that Brian.
You have to say it louder. No. There you go.
Mr. Dilworth has been at my house through his high school years with my daughters, and he's a fine young man, so I'm very happy.
Thank you, Committeeman Perry.
Thank you, Chiefs. Excellent work as always. My congratulations to Lieutenant Giulio and Sergeant Dilworth. Again, I feel like I say it every time we have these wonderful promotions, but thanks to our incredible police department, we have the ability and the leadership of you, Chief, Deputy Chief Stefanski, Deputy Chief Dollinger, to promote these fine young men and women consistently up the chain, and Middletown's residents benefit greatly from that. Just a reminder, obviously, September 22nd is Middletown Day. Hope to see everybody there. We had a very solemn, once again, solemn event. It's always incredibly beautiful in its own way, a tribute to the 17th anniversary of 9/11. Attended incredibly well, and I also went to the counties, and I'll tell you what, Middletown does it great. No speeches, no nothing. It's beautiful in its own way, and unique in its own way. And finally, I just wanted to give a huge thank you to the New Jersey Task, the members of our first responders that are down responding to Hurricane Florence, New Jersey Task Force 1. We have folks down there, and I just want to thank them for their bravery and willingness to help those individuals affected by this storm. So with that, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Committeeman Perry. Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try to speak as loud as I can. Big part of the reason why we're looking into a new facility here at Town Hall is that we don't have the room or the sound system, as you can see when you come to a meeting. But not to belabor the comments that my colleagues have made, so I'll make them brief. But Chief, I know it's been said now a few times. Congratulations on the promotions to the two individuals who are so deserving this evening. But more importantly, as a resident, as a father of raising two young girls in this town, that I hope will live in Middletown for the rest of their lives, it is very comforting to know that we are so very fortunate for the work that's done under your leadership, Chief, and the leadership of your department, to be recognized continually as one of the safest communities, not only in the state of New Jersey, but these United States. Secondly, just as my colleague said, you heard about Middletown Day. It's a great community day. We hope you all enjoy that. I pretty much have a fairly good idea why I see so many faces in the crowd tonight, so I assume some doors were knocked on recently, and I'm sure I'll have some comments for those that want to ask specific questions to make sure that we get proper information out, to make sure that everybody knows exactly what's going on in the township and things that we're thinking of as going on. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I'll just make a couple comments. I want to get right to public comment, so we can hear what everyone is come here to say, answer any questions that you may have. Chief, once again, thank you very much to the Deputy Chief for your leadership, for the continued promotions and enhancements that the Deputy Mayor mentioned to make Middletown one of the safest places to live in the country. So I'm going to bring up two other brief items. One, I know that everyone knows that Middletown Day is this Saturday, and I suspect that everyone's here because you want to know about the start time of the Dinger Derby. It's 2 p.m. Okay, so it is 2 p.m. And Big Al should be there. Right? so don't miss it. That's Saturday the 22nd, will start exactly at 11 o'clock and will continue on all day. We hope to see everyone there. The other item that I'll bring up is something that never makes the news, and it's something that Committeeman Perry and I attended last Saturday, Tony? So this was together with Father Luigi at St. Augustine's, we had honored the people that work the food pantry. It was the Manja Food Pantry. It's been in existence now for only a year. And these are the kind of things that articles don't get written about, right? But these are the kind of things where Middletown helps the less fortunate in the community. And this is the kind of thing that helps the township stay together. And these are the kind of things that don't show up in articles. So I want to make certain to provide Father Luigi and the Manja Food Pantry with recognition. We did so that Saturday to be one of the parts of Middletown that you don't hear about too often, but that make Middletown a real special place to live. So with that being said, I'm going to close Township Committee comments and open it up to the public. So a couple things. When you come up to the microphone, we're going to ask that you state your name and address, please, and please limit your comments to 5 minutes. And I do have a sign-in sheet with regard to public comment. Again, I'll call people on the sign-in sheet first, and then anyone when I'm completed certainly free to ask to speak as well. With regard to public comments, just you can comment on anything that you like. Diane Fisler, 870 West Front Street. Did I read that properly?
Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Diane Fisler. My name is Diane Fisler. I live at 870 West Front Street. I'm very concerned with the traffic and the environmental aspects of the sports complex that's being proposed for Stevenson Park. I have grown children and they did play soccer. I have a niece and nephew and they play soccer. But Stevenson Park is not the place for this. Stevenson Park is a beautiful, peaceful, passive recreation park. The idea of changing the use of this bucolic site into an active sports complex is frankly hurtful to our family, friends, and neighbors who all love Stevenson Park for years for hiking, running, boating, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, fishing, and bird watching. Also extremely concerning are the expected traffic impacts of these sports fields, which will dangerously overwhelm the narrow, winding West Front Street. A few years ago, my daughter's car was hit by a speeding motorist while pulling out of our driveway. Thank goodness there were only minor injuries. Sadly, last year there was a fatal traffic accident on West Front Street near Stevenson Park. The entrance to Stevenson Park is a very narrow country lane, and motorists have to cross a single lane bridge to access the planned sports fields. The initial phase of the planned sports complex involves 2 wells for irrigation. This will surely negatively impact our already very fragile Shadow Lake, which abuts Stevenson Park. The fertilization that the soccer fields require will also negatively impact Shadow Lake. The plan will have a much more negative environmental impact than the small farm tract that Mr. Sickles now maintains. Shadow Lake needs our help and support. It's fragile and has significant problems which need to be addressed. I was present at the September 4th, 2018 meeting that happened. There were a large group of pro-soccer people speaking in favor of this plan. One of my neighbors tells me that those who have children playing soccer were notified by the Middletown Soccer Club to make sure they were present to speak. The residents of my neighborhood and those of Shady Oaks and Shadow Lake Village, we all felt very much left out. Only a few of us saw the notice in the September 4th meeting, about the meeting in the newspaper, and the meeting was held the day after Labor Day weekend. And I asked you, is this fair to the neighbors of Stevenson Park? I asked you to carefully consider the negative impact of this gross overdevelopment of our quiet community. If soccer fields are needed in Middletown, they would surely be better placed in a less traffic-sensitive and a less environmentally fragile area. Thank you.
So, ma'am, thank you for your comments. Before we continue on with the next speaker, two items. I'd ask Mr. Mercantante, our administrator, to speak with regard to DEP responses and comments on that property. And secondly, we have been requested by the Shady Oaks president and the association to present the plan and be on hand to answer any questions at their upcoming October meeting. So we all will be in attendance at that meeting and go through the plan and stay till however long you need us to stay to review the plan, go through any questions. We've been in contact with the president. We've gone through that, and we will be at the meeting in October to make a full presentation there to Shady Oaks. Thomas, please.
Well, I would just say, with regard to environmental impact, we have had a discussion with Green Acres, and the plans ultimately will have to go to DEP, to their land use division, and they may comment on whether or not there are any environmental issues with them. We don't expect there to be. Their comment to us was they prefer playing fields over farms, because farms actually do not allow for public access. They actually inhibit public access. So from their standpoint, it's a much better way to use the park as opposed to farming. The other thing is, with regard to the issue of the wells. First of all, there's been a well on the property ever since the Stevensons lived there. This one just had a second well, but they will have no impact on Shadow Lake. Shadow Lake isn't a well-fed lake. It's created by an artificial dam. Shadow Lake was created by a dam, man-made, and dammed up a creek. So no well will have any impact on the lake itself. The well will be built in an aquifer that doesn't supply water to the lake.
Thank you, Tony. Our next speaker is Valerie Barney, 941 West Front Street.
Thank you for having me.
Can you name and address, please,
My
ma'am?
name is Valerie Barney. My address is 941 West Front Street. That might sound familiar. I live directly across from Stevenson Park.
Thank
I am probably the most affected person in this room by this proposal. I am a mother of two Middletown South graduates and a teacher at Middletown South for the last 14 years. And obviously a little concerned about the thought of 324 parking places across the street from my house. When my husband and I bought our home 25 years ago, it was in a large part because of the beautiful Consolidated Park in front of us, where we walk our dogs. I've even ridden horses. My husband runs there every day. It's a beautiful place. The thought of, I just heard there's a possibility of a stoplight or a, I just can imagine, a light being installed on the gravel road where I walk my dog. It's incredible. Anyway, we did know the risks of living on a busy street. West Front Street is so busy, but having a park across the street from us, of course, when we look, using that facility. My in-laws live 2 doors down from the entrance to the park. We have seen in the years that they've lived there, they've had to rebuild their retaining wall 3 times from cars slamming into it. We've probably seen 5 overturned vehicles, 2 fatalities. It is constant in front of my house and about 500 feet in both directions. It's very dangerous. Pulling out of my driveway is very scary. When my children got their license, I was more afraid for them to learn to pull out of my driveway than to pull onto the Garden State Parkway. The thought of parents, all these parents taking their kids to soccer games, trying to pull out onto that street is really mortifying. Much less the fact I'll probably never pull out of my driveway. But it's not safe. It's just not a safe place. The speed limit is 40 miles an hour, and the visibility is low. It is as you know, a one-lane bridge that I can't fathom any space without tearing down many beautiful trees for cars to even move aside to let another car pass. It just seems undoable to me. I've probably said most of what I want to say. I don't want to be too redundant because you've already heard a lot of the problems that we're concerned about with the park and the lake itself and the environment and all my beautiful animals that I love to see across the street. I was a varsity soccer player in college. I was a coach for my children. My children both played soccer in Middletown. we have fields at. I don't know what's going on, but I believe there's a better solution, maybe finding a safer place. Seriously, obviously, I don't want all this traffic in front of my house, who would? But also, I just can't imagine the car incidents that we would have. We have so many already. So, thank you.
Thank you. Pat Foley?
Hi, Pat Foley, 65 Smoke Tree Terrace. I live in Shady Oaks. I was a nurse, actively working for 35 years, many times at the hospital. So I am very focused on safety, okay? We had an issue within Shady Oaks where people were double parking. So Buddy Staley, the fire marshal, was extremely helpful, and he had told me that you need 20 feet clearance for a fire truck to go for a road. The bridge is 16 and a half feet. I know in the YouTube video it said it was 17, but my husband and I went with the tape measure that I think that 17 feet might include railings. I cannot imagine a scenario where there's a 9 o'clock soccer game and then a 10 o'clock soccer game. The 9 o'clock soccer game is getting over, the 10 o'clock people are coming in, the officials are leaving from the 9 o'clock game, the officials are arriving from the 9 o'clock game. Somebody on either team hurts themselves. Where does the ambulance go? It cannot be accommodated. The road after the bridge is only 12 feet wide. There is just no room. All 3 of my children played lacrosse soccer. I have 2 grandchildren. I hope they play. This is just not safe. I can't imagine how anyone could think that this was violent. I'm really mystified. I know I listened to the YouTube video, and I know I felt it was rather dismissive when people brought up about the traffic. You can't go anywhere. I grew up in Middletown, okay? We moved here in 1958, so I've seen a lot of changes, a lot of sidewalks. There's no room on West Front Street, you know? It's just, and I don't think you can even widen it because of the, you know, the geography there. So I don't think it's an appropriate place. I sent my husband on a road trip because I can't drive this foot. But there are 28 soccer fields within 5 miles of Shady Oaks. I know Monmouth United is looking for more fields. That is a travel club. They are an elitist group, okay? I believe the township's responsibility is for the recreational leagues. And I just don't think that it is an appropriate spot. I also wanted to find out, I've known Marion Cligman for years, and at the September 4th meeting, it was challenged when she said that there's a deed restriction on Stevenson Park only for passive recreation. And she was told, no, that's incorrect. I would like to know where I can see it in print, whether it is passive or active. Can you tell me that?
I think our administrator can comment on that.
Well, anyone can get a copy of the deed, but certainly send it to you. We have a deed from the transfer of the property, and it doesn't specify anything about what type of recreation it can be used for.
Okay. But can you tell me the thought process between, and I don't think you're going to do another bridge, you're going to do something on number 16.
Mayor, if I was a few comments, and I appreciate your comments this evening. Number one, this is a concept plan, so this is not an approved plan, okay? So, like any plan that starts, you take a concept and you see, potentially, if it can work. We've not been given the grant, okay? Last meeting on September 4th was a grant application, okay, to see if there was money available to do something. Stevenson Park was selected because, quite honestly, of its basic no need to tree clear, its ability to have, have really open land because of the way the park was, and the process of the fact that while you make a comment, which I concur with, that there may be 25 soccer fields within the vicinity. Let me tell you this. The Board of Education, in which we have tried to work with, those are not all our soccer fields, okay? We have done everything we can to work with that Board of Education to get them to improve some of those fields, and they have, okay? The only improvements we've seen are the ones we've paid for. And we can't do things on other people's property. Like, we couldn't come to your property and build something or fix something. Can't do it to the schools either. Okay, so we had a willing partner. We have a new school board. We no longer have a willing partner. Let me say that as someone who's been on shared services for a decade. So that's issue number one. Issue number two, okay, again, this is a concept. Issue number two has been that this is about recreation. It's not about elitist travel soccer clubs, okay? We have 1,200 kids playing on, Mr. Heibel, his son, I believe, was one of them, at Thorn and Harmony Fields, basically underwater on the weekends for St. Mary's recreation, okay? We have other recreation leagues through Lincroft playing on West Front Street and Lincroft Acres. Have you ever been to Lincroft Acres?
Yes.
Okay, you notice that the entrance in is one car in and one car out, right? You really can't get two cars in and out of there. Not saying that that makes it right at Stevenson, but again, it's a concept. So what we're saying is, we will not build something that is not safe. We will not build something that is not engineered, the ability to have proper engineering. So if those concerns actually come through, there will be nothing, okay, at Stevenson. But understand this. I can guarantee you that somebody knocked on a lot of doors. I can guarantee you that information, like you said, people came, or maybe it was the previous person said, people came here in support of fields, because there's not enough of them, and because we don't have willing participants with the Board of Education. Everything we've done, we've exhausted. And unfortunately, there are more and more children playing both fall and spring. Lacrosse is a bigger deal right now than it's ever been before. It's just put a tax on recreation, right? There's 8,000 kids, thank you, Committee Member, 8,000 kids using our fields right now, okay? On a very finite number. So Stevenson Park came up as a concept. Doesn't mean it's gonna happen. And if it did happen, and the engineering could happen, and the traffic safety could happen, and the bridge can be whatever happened, right? If all of that could happen, there would be no lights, there would be no sound system. But I guarantee you, people said that there would be lights and sound systems. You're also probably been told there's a 65-foot buffer, which is 130 feet, okay, with big trees. I have pictures. Okay, so this is a concept. It is not a proven.
Wait a minute, the YouTube video was.
I don't know whose YouTube video you watched, ma'am, but I can say I was at the
The videotape from there, it was word for word.
Well, word for word was a grant application.
I just don't see how you would even waste any time with the grant application. Because I don't know how much money was spent on the bridge, but I know that the bridge was repaired over the last
$1 million, ma'am.
Wow. So then you make a one-lane bridge that doesn't accommodate a first aid squad truck and a fire truck, and now you're saying that you're gonna tear that down to make it bigger?
Ma'am, the bridge accommodates both vehicles. It does accommodate a fire truck and an EMS. What he was telling.
That buddy scale, it's maybe 20 feet and it's 16 and a half.
No problem. I was the chief of the department. For a turning radius, there's not a turn on the bridge, so it's just straight over the bridge. You have enough room. The cars drive down a regular road.
Google, what is the lift clearance for a fire truck? And you get 20 feet, it's a national standard.
Even Heibel was the chief of our fire department.
Man, we have specialized vehicles also that we can get. We have vehicles that can get in anywhere. We have driveways that are half a mile long that I'm just explaining to you. I mean, I don't need to, but I will. We have driveways that are half a mile long that are very narrow, 8 feet wide. We have specialized trucks that can get in that area.
So, ma'am, thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Just keep in mind, as we call the next speakers, we understand all of the concerns. If the concerns are similar, obviously we would ask that we understand them. We will address them if and after the grant is approved. But understand, there can be 5, 10 people that come up here and say the same thing. We understand them. We get it. We're clear on it. So I would just ask that unless we want to be here till midnight or so, We understand your comments, so if we can refrain from repeating them to request, it would be appreciated. So the next speaker is Mary Ann Clipman.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just
Give
quick
your name and
question.
address, please, ma'am.
Mary Ann Clipman, 26 Harbor Ring Circle.
Great, thank you.
That's the street you're going to turn into a parking lot with this, because that's already a cut through. I can't imagine 324 cars speeding around trying to avoid the light at Half Mile Road to get onto the Parkway and you're going to destroy that street. It's already pretty bad, but you're going to make it unlivable. I just had a quick question first on the consent agenda, number 16. Can you tell me what that refers to, since it was just a consent agenda? And it mentioned the Stevenson Park Bridge.
The change order.
This is
Consent agenda number 16.
This is number 16, 18-222, authorizing change order number 2.
Change order for finish out the construction costs. The final price was $1.2 million. What did I say?
So that's the improvement you made that Pat just mentioned, that was
That's
1.2
the
million.
bridge.
And was that made so you can accommodate this proposal that you're sending to Green Acres?
No.
What was the purpose of that then?
Well, it was the only way to get in and out of the park.
Without using Shady Oaks as the access, that was the only way in now.
Okay, I don't want to repeat everything that was said, but I do want to mention the fact, and it can't be mentioned enough, that West Front Street is not the appropriate, and the word is appropriate, place for this type of sports complex. And it is a complex. Your conceptual plan goes up to 9 fields through 324 parking spaces. And you're not going to give us any reprieve. From a Two River Times article that was in the paper this week, it mentions that you're looking to do not just soccer, but rugby, flag football, lacrosse. I mean, we'll never get any reprieve from this. This is going to be an all year round thing. And once you do finally find a home for your sports complex, which I know you've been trying to put someplace, because Mr. Mercantanti says in his own letter, he says, this might sound like an aggressive plan that he sent to you in August. Yes, it is a very aggressive plan. But you always had this desire to locate all of your fields in one location. So we are convenient to create a sports complex. If you really want a sports complex, and I understand the need for additional soccer fields, if you say that, I'm not going to debate that. But you need to find an appropriate place with the proper egress and ingress. It has to be something off a major highway. There's 2 major highways that run through this town. There's plenty of open land. Maybe you have to purchase a piece. Maybe you should do a committee, a study to do the right type of complex that will not hurt or destroy a community. You are looking to do this thing, and it will destroy this community. I can't imagine the noise level at Shady Oaks. I can't imagine. When we first talked about the Stevenson track, I was here. It was 2 decades ago. And we wanted at least to put in a boat ramp. And the residents of Shadow Lake did not want boats going across their lake because they felt they didn't compromise their security. I can't imagine how they feel about this. They didn't know anything about this last week. You had 3 rows of soccer parents that you told about this. You did it on the Labor Day weekend. By some chance, some of us, only 4 of us, were here. And now they know about it, as you can see. They know about it now. And it is not something that is very upsetting to all your neighbors in this area. Shady Oaks, Shadow Lake. What you're going to do is destroy quality of life. And you're going to make it, as everyone said, an extremely dangerous situation for travel. And it is just an inappropriate site. I can't believe you can't find a more appropriate site on Route 36 or Route 35 than this winding, dangerous hilly road that is West Front Street. Honestly, I think we can make everybody happy if you look for an appropriate place. So the soccer family could have a big complex that they want, that they can be proud of because they go to other towns, they had said, and everybody has a beautiful complex but us. Well, maybe that would be something you can accomplish, but you can't do it at the expense of this community. I'm sorry. We will not allow that. We are... Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. So before we call up the next speaker, I want to reiterate that what the deputy mayor mentioned is that this is a concept plan. So the plan of this is an application, we voted on an application for the county for a $250,000 grant, which requires matching funds. So that's the only action that the governor's body is taking. We have offered this as a concept plan A in phases. So it's not a scenario whereby we would, at any stretch of the imagination, develop everything at the same time, number one. Number two, the grant would have to be approved by the county. Number three, it potentially would be a phased project. Number four, if the grant is approved, we would then look at all of those criteria, whether it's safety, whether it's ingress and egress, whether it's the width of the bridge. All of those things will be looked at. And I will tell you this, as the deputy mayor mentioned, if all of those things do not work and they are not safe and they're not proper and they generate an excessive amount of traffic, this project will go nowhere. Okay? So right now, this is an application for a grant. That's the only action this governing body is taking. But rest assured, all of those items will be reviewed by our professionals and will be ultimately decided on by this governing body. So again, I appreciate your comments, but the way that you're making it seem this evening is that it is a fait accompli, which is not the case. So please understand, we've only taken action on a grant application, and all of the items that you mentioned will be thoroughly investigated. So please understand that this is not an us and them scenario. This is a scenario to try to ask the county for tax-free dollars, if you will, to assist in this phased development. But all these things are going to be investigated. This is not a scenario where this is done either. So please understand. So the next speaker is Frank Guadiana. Get that? Did I get that correct?
Yes.
Sir?
Close enough.
Thank you, sir. That's because I got to read the handwriting. It's tough to read the handwriting.
I'm trying to say it.
That explains it.
Frank Galliano, 16 Middlebrook Court,
Thank you, sir.
Shadow Lake.
Thank you, sir.
First, I have a strong objection to this group. People at Shadow Lake did not know about the September 4th meeting, and we strongly object to that. You notified other people, we didn't know about it.
We didn't notify anyone. It was the same notification that everyone got, was the notification, our official notification.
I'd like to take exception with the gentleman who said that the wells will have no impact on Shadow Lake. That's absolutely incorrect. The aquifer will be depleted, the lake will go down, the lake will die as you grow grass or or whatever, soccer fields.
There's been a well on that property for 100 years.
Pardon me?
There's been a well on that property for 100 years.
For residential.
All the water that's being taken out would be taken out.
The lake is not fed by an aquifer. The lake was created when they dammed up this.
Wait, do you understand what an aquifer is, sir?
Absolutely do. Absolutely.
Well, then if you draw water down,
Don't draw water from, aquifer does not provide water to Shadow Lake. Shadow Lake was created by the damming of a creek.
I understand that too.
That's all.
The
That's all you need to
aquifer
know.
will be drained and the lake will be drained.
Apples and oranges, you're talking apples.
Sir, you also had over, I believe it was 50 to 100 acres of farmland that wasn't being fed by the rain. Just so you know.
What?
There was certainly water being irrigated into those farm crops. And if you've been on the property, you would see that those acres are, what, it might be 50 or more acres of, or maybe 100 acres that were being irrigated. So I get what you're saying, and I'm not going to debate the aquifer, I'm not going to debate the scientific, but I'm just going to say that, don't think for a second, though, that Sickles or Mr. Stevenson prior or Impact Oasis, and I have pictures myself, anybody who had those rows of corn, or whatever they had, for 100 acres, that was being irrigated, just like grass would, which is why it's conceptual.
Grass requires more
More than
water.
crops.
More than crops?
Absolutely.
More than crops?
Probably.
No,
Absolutely.
incorrect.
That's not incorrect. All right. The next thing you're going to use, fertilizers, you're going to use herbicides, and this is going to drain into the lake.
Always used on the crops too.
You are now proposing, may I speak please?
That's the point.
May I speak?
You may.
This is going to further degrade that lake. The lake is in bad shape now. You have generously helped with with that growth that's in there. Water chestnuts. And it's working. And we commend you for that. But if you start letting all this material leak into the lake, it's going to degrade it, it's going to kill it. And I think that's very important.
Would you also agree though going forward? I mean, I'm just asking a question.
I
Okay.
didn't hear.
Would you also agree going forward that we should allow no farming on Stevenson property for the lake? There were over 100 acres of farmland that was on there for the past at least 20 years.
Has no bearing.
No, my question is, there's no longer farmland on that property. Okay? So what I'm saying is, just so we have...
Hold on, stop. Ladies and gentlemen, please, ladies and gentlemen, please stop. So, and with respect to the speakers, I said, just please listen to what's happening up here.
All I'm asking is, conceptually, this plan dies. Okay? And that is a direction this very well may well go. My question is, now that there's no longer farming, that there has been for over 20 years, I believe, because we had some kind of crazy lease agreement from 20 years ago to allow it, that Mr. Stevenson sublet to Sickles or whoever it got there. My question is, from my perspective, based on your comments, should we also then, when we get the park back now that we have a bridge, not allow farming on the property due to the lake?
Sure.
I'm just want to get public support for that then too.
I can't comment. I have no knowledge.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because we gotta have to figure that out too.
We're talking about a specific project, which I find is going to degrade community. We've already heard about the traffic. I think that's a death trap. And I think that this is an ill-conceived project, and it'll cost all of us, everybody here, a lot of money, because it doesn't happen for free. You get your grant, that's for the study. Now you're going to tax us to build it and degrade our life. Thank you.
That concludes the speaker list. However, would like to see if anyone else. So no one saw the list of that. Sir, third row from the front, please.
Good evening. My name is Austin Canaday, 70 Whitman Drive on Shadow Lake.
Good evening, sir.
June 30th, I sent to this committee 400 signed petition, Tony probably got it with yes, of 400 people who wanted to save Shadow Lake. How did they do it? These were people who lived on the lake and used the lake. Well, I was happy. I didn't even get an acknowledgement to get now because you got the phone. Tony, Anthony recognized, he said, it's going to have no impact on the lake. People else said it was going to do. My dock, when I moved in 10 years ago, on Shadow Lake, was 10 feet deep, 10 to 12 feet deep. It is now 7 feet deep. What happened? We have gotten less and less water on Shadow Lake. It has exemplified on the west side of the lake, which is becoming a swamp. My end, the east end, close to the the dam. It happened, thank God, Tony, and you guys changed the person who did the treatment plan, we changed companies, and thank God this year is the first year that the water chestnuts have not continued to develop. It's all by Diane as well as Cohen. Judy Cohen, thank you, Judy. That it has been an improvement, and he knows that they don't know if they're going to have continued chestnuts. My point is, there's no question in my mind, and as you can hear, it's got to have an impact on the lake. And as I've been saying for over 10 years, Anthony, it's a jewel. To risk getting or having the entire Shadow Lake become a swamp, and it will, believe me, it's just coming. I mean, you got it in the West End. You stopped it a little bit in the dredging. You want to spend money? I love cops, but 9 more cops, 10 more cops at $150,000 a clip. Not money. That's
Those
the
are
idea of it.
police promotions. Those were police promotions.
I know, but I think we did a while ago, deputy mayor, deputy policeman.
What?
But that's another whole story. That's another story.
Really?
Get that. That's, I'm here for the lake. I've said that and need my help. But these people need it for their life. I'm 85. I'm not too old. These people are young people. They need it for their life and their children. Please don't put the court, the soccer fields where you were. It's a ill plan. Guy is building right next to me. He's putting up a beautiful home right next to my house. Gorgeous home. Why did he do it? He wants to see the view of the lake. I told him about what's going on today. He said, what? This house is worth nothing. If that lake goes down the drain, and it may very well. Thank you very much for your time. Please, do what's right for the community.
Sir?
Hi, good evening. I'm Carl Rhoda, live at 78 Cricket Place, my name is Shadow Lake. Just wanted to, I'm not going to repeat everything that was said, I just want to give my 2 cents. I've lived in Middletown for over 30 years. I lived off of Karen Terrace East and Cherry Tree Farm. My boys went to Harmony, Thorn, played baseball, college at North, and went on to college and play. I coached. I just want to tell you, gentlemen, that when the soccer games start on Saturday, I heard the refs' whistles, the horns beating, and the kids cheering and the parents cheering from my house. And I was nowhere near to how close these fields are going to be to Shadow Lake and to Shady Oaks. The parking is a disaster, and I'm sure any of you gentlemen live in the town. You try and drive on a Saturday when there's a soccer game down Harmony Road in Murphy. The cars are double and triple parked, even though there's signs all over the place saying no parking, do not park. They destroyed the grass on Harmony School and on Thorn that we had to put barriers in. The schools requested barriers. Please don't park on the grass. They extended the parking lots. They still park on the grass. So I can't fathom what would happen. My wife and I recently retired. She worked for the county, for the Monmouth County. We looked all around. We wanted to stay in Middletown because we love Middletown. It's got one of the safest histories in the country. And my kids grew up here, and we love it here. We looked at many seniors, 55 and over. We found Shadow Lake. We saw Shady Oaks. We love both of them. We chose Shady Oaks because it's quiet. 55 and over. It's quiet. You put this in there, and we literally have 100 feet from where my home is now, parking lots and the fields. It's not going to be quiet anymore. I'm asking you to consider that for the people who live in this community, who moved there for that reason. All right, to us, that's important. So, and I'm a sports guy. Like I said, my sons played every sport there was. I'm all for the sports, but I don't think this is the location for it. The other issue I want to bring up, how long was that bridge broken until it finally got repaired? The one at Stevenson Park?
Well, it took as long as it took to get the permits needed from the DEP to fix it, and then award it, go up through the design of the bridge, and go out to bid and have it bid awarded, and then have it built by a contractor. It was not out any longer than it had to be out. We built that bridge as quickly as you can, given what you have to go through for permits from the DEP to replace a bridge like that.
I ask you that because what we had developing as a result of that bridge being done, I understand it was, I know Mr. Stevenson passed away, and his wife used to drive through the back way out Shady Oaks, and we saw that car coming in and out. We had no idea, and we looked into it, we found out who it was. On Memorial Day weekend, I walk every day, my wife and I, all around the development. I counted no less than 5 trucks with canoes on their roofs, driving through our development to go up that easy road down to Stevens because the bridge was out. And even though this is a private location, and they shouldn't be driving there, these people found another entrance to the park. What's going to happen when you guys have this one-way bridge and they realize, I Google mapped it and I see another road coming in, it's going to be horrific. I'm asking that for you to consider that also. That's all I have to say, and thank you for your time.
In the back, additional comments, please?
My name is Lori Lowenstein. I live at 19 Page Drive on Shadow Lake. I just had to ask, we know that there was $1 million allocated in the budget to dredge Shadow Lake, and because they had discovered natural arsenic in the ground. And they were unable to find a place to dump it. And so now the price has gone up to almost $2 million to dredge the lake and dispose of the sludge. So my question is, should we go ahead with the project? What happens to that? Are we still going to dredge the lake? Is the water level going to go down consistently as the sludge level goes up? So the speaker who called Shadow Lake fragile was really correct. Shadow Lake is fragile. It is a gem in our community. It is a mistake to ruin it, to play with its future, and to let existing problems worsen as we increase the access to the lake through the fields and the parking and the people who decide maybe they're not, or after their soccer game, they're going to put a boat on the lake. And suddenly the lake is overcrowded, and instead of finding 2 or 3 milk cartons, milk bottles in the lake every year, I find 20 or 30. So we need to remember that Shadow Lake is our gem, and we need to protect it.
Thank you for your comments. I just want to expand on a couple things with regard to this governing body's protection of Shadow Lake. So we do spend, and Colleen, the budget number I don't recall offhand, that we use herbicides on the lake once a year with regard to the diminution of the plants there. We also purchased Tony.
Well, first of all, let me just explain. First of all, I wish your numbers were right.
I'm going to talk about the numbers in a moment. I want to make certain that the public understands the steps that this governing body has gone through to protect the gem, to protect that lake within our financial resources. So I want to clarify that first.
We spend money every year to treat the lake. We also, one year, leased a piece of equipment and hired a company to come in and actually remove a large amount of vegetation from about a third of the lake about 3 or 4 years ago. So we spend money every year to try to maintain the health of the lake. But dredging is far, far more expensive.
The second point of that is with regard to some of the numbers that you mentioned, and they were a little off. So, Mr. Mercantante, just take a minute, please, to clarify those.
Yeah, and if it was $1 million or even $2 million, it would be done by now. We actually allocated about $4 million to dredge the lake. But when we learned that the DEP would not allow us to place the material on the Stevenson Park, we had to look for off-site disposal locations. It's not that you can't find a location, it's just that there's extreme cost when it comes to trucking that material, most likely to either, possibly to Saraville, although Saraville weren't excited about it, or out of state. But the number rose to well over $7 million. And that's what blew the possibility of that ever happening. So it's far, far more expensive than that to dredge Shadow Lake. We are still talking about options. If a closer by, easier to access disposal site ever became available, that might help. But right now, for the foreseeable future, dredging the lake isn't really an option. But I would also point out, based on your comments and some comments of someone else, is that if you remember, when the town proposed to put a dock on Stevenson Park so that people could access and enjoy the lake, Shadow Lake Village opposed that because they didn't want people on the lake. So whose lake is it? That's the question. It really belongs to everyone. It's not anyone's personal backyard pond or lake. It's a lake that belongs to everyone. So if people did come there to play a soccer game or a lacrosse game and they decided to put their canoe on the lake, what would be so bad about that? That's what we want, isn't it? We want people to access and enjoy the lake. So I'm not sure where that is a problem. It's only a problem if you want to make the lake in your own personal water body and not allow it to be accessed by anyone else. So keep that in mind. It's everyone's lake, as you say. Everyone is going to pay the cost to dredge that lake. Primary beneficiaries, if we ever get to dredge it, primary beneficiaries are going to be the people living immediately adjacent to the lake. But people on the other side of town are going to pay for that. Just like you may pay for soccer fields, even though you don't really want soccer fields. Everyone ends up paying for something that they don't particularly use that much. So that's just the way it works. Everyone's got their own interests, and we have to look out for everyone. So far tonight, everyone has said there has to be a better place. That not a single person has suggested a better place. And except one person said, well, maybe we should go buy a piece of property. Well, one of the speakers said, I don't want to spend my tax dollars even creating fields. So somebody apparently wants us to spend money to buy a piece of property and then create fields on it. So imagine the cost of that. Imagine the impact on your taxes. So if you put all those things together, there's actually nowhere to go. It's impossible to create more fields for the growing number of kids who are playing youth sports. So think about all these things. You're putting the township committee in an impossible position of saying, yeah, we know you need to provide more fields, We don't have a solution for you. Go figure it out. And, oh, by the way, don't let it cost anything. So think about how realistic that position really is.
So ma'am, just to conclude, this governing body spends dollars every year to, and we agree with you, spends dollars every year to protect that lake. If we didn't care, we wouldn't spend any money on it, but we do, so we agree with that. We just want to make sure those numbers got correct. Yeah.
Carmela Millie, Dakotas, 1300 Sutter Lane, Shady Oaks. 3 years ago, I moved from Homedale. I was looking for a nice place to live. I found Shady Oaks. I was so happy with Shady Oaks because I felt like it was quiet. It was very pretty. I saw birds, I saw grass. I thought, what a wonderful place to live. And I've been very happy there. Now, I'm not going to talk about lakes. I'm going to talk about people. I have a grandson. I had 2 sons who played baseball, who played football, who played tennis. I talk about fields. My grandson, I go to walk to watch him play baseball. So I know how important fields are to children. But I also think that my children would be very upset if they came to Shady Oaks and saw fields 50 feet to 100 feet behind my house. You came to Shady Oaks as a senior, retired, to enjoy peace and quiet. There will no longer be peace and quiet. I don't live in the area that you're putting the 9 fields. I live in the front of the property, okay? But I'm talking to my neighbors. Okay, we're all part of Shady Oaks. It's impossible to even consider putting fields 100 feet behind somebody's retirement, quiet home. People are used to peace and quiet. Going to all these games, I know there is no peace and quiet. With people shouting and yelling to their children, whether it be a baseball game or a soccer game, there's going to be happiness being displayed. I don't think my children or grandchildren would be happy with soccer fields behind my house. I think that the concept is completely unimaginable. What I see is Middletown is humongous. You have a lot of fields all over the place. You have trees that can be knocked down. You say you can't buy property. I'd like to know how this little farmer, who's a nephew of the farming family from Homedale, who bought property, or, believe it or not, West Front Street, knocked down the trees and built a farm 3 years ago. And he could afford to buy property and put in a farm. Somehow or other, we should be able to find property to buy and put in here. I cannot understand why it can't be done. Rather than, oh, yes, it's another problem. Not only are they putting the fields behind the houses, a whole row of houses, they're going to use our road, which is really, I found out tonight it belongs to Middletown. That's going to be used as the access road to these fields.
No, that's not accurate.
Okay? There's not, you're not going to use an access road.
No, ma'am.
You always have that
No.
writing? Yeah. I really would love it, right? I really appreciate it. And I understand where you're coming from. The children in these fields. Children that play sports do not get in trouble. Okay, so everybody understands that. seniors to get their children and grandchildren in. This is a terrible decision. I understand it is. And you're on my side.
Thank you.
So, thank you, ma'am. We very much appreciate your comments and your fairness with regard to both sides. And here's what I'll say is you're exactly right. As I mentioned earlier, it's only a concept. So I know you mentioned a number of times 9 fields. The concept may never come to fruition if we. The concept may never come to fruition. That was a total build-up. May never come to fruition if all of these items that you mentioned, the safety, traffic, the ingress and egress, are not properly addressed to the satisfaction of this governing body. Number one. Number two, the issue with the fields is an issue of capacity. So to your point, it's exactly that. The township needs more fields where it's throwing sports. For all the children's sports. And I know you brought that up. But when we try to look at locating fields, you look at a location that has the least impact with regard to cutting down trees, with regard to making things, clearing fields. This governing body has no desire to do that, as you had mentioned, with regard to creating a field that wasn't there. Most of the areas that we're talking about potentially creating fields are open areas that already don't have trees on them. So we tried to locate something that already didn't have trees that we would have to cut down. So, but just to finish up, this governing body is everything that we do tries to balance multiple requirements of different portions of town, different demographics of town. It's not an easy thing to do. But we would like to expand our fields in terms of for the children, and we would like to respect everyone's right to apply and enjoy their lives. So thank you for your comments. Sir.
I promise to be real quick. My name is Jim Gilbert. I'm from 1 Sterling Court. I've lived in Middletown for 56 years. Raised my family there, graduated of Middletown South. Real quick, my first home in Middletown was a little house that my parents rented on Newcroft Farms. And Newcroft Farms was a beautiful active horse farm. So I saw the rapid development take place in Middletown. I saw the farms rapidly disappear. And I saw the population increase. But if you look, we keep talking about growing numbers and growing children. I was the last of the baby boom era. If you look at the population in Middletown, it kind of leveled off around 1990 at 68,000. You look at the population in Middletown now, it's 66,000. So the population is not increasing. If you look at our graduating class, the high schools have just split. I think we were around 450. My son Sean graduated in 2010. His graduating class was 350. So I grew up playing sports in this town. I grew up coaching sports in this town. I grew up at a time when families were living in Middletown with 5 and 6 kids. We didn't seem to have a crisis of where to play sports. I mean, it just didn't seem like a crisis. Mr. Stevenson passed away not even a year ago, and it just seems like a coincidence that there's also a crisis of where to have a field. That's all I have to say.
Sir, thank you for your comments. There are two items. With regard to the timing of this, I know that you may think that when Mr. Stevenson passed away, said, let's look at it now. But in fact, this was the result of many years of study, as the Deputy Mayor will or can speak to. And with regard to the population, when I mentioned that there's a growing need for additional sports field, I didn't particularly tie it to the demographic of the population of town, because that's not the genesis for that. So, Mr. Fury, take a minute, please.
So, I totally appreciate it, and I get what you said. I may be a little bit younger, but I also played in the generation where sports were a one-season deal, right? So that while the difference might not be that we have more kids in Middletown or any town, right? So It may not be that there are more children per se. The difference is when I grew up, you played one sport in the fall, you played a different one in the spring, maybe that was baseball or whatever else it was, and maybe you did something different in the winter. The difference now is that you have fall soccer and spring soccer. You have fall baseball and spring baseball. You have fall lacrosse and spring lacrosse. You have fall this, fall that. So the problem with capacity is we might not be bringing in more kids. We have over 8,000 children using the fields. We might not be growing our family size, but the issue is that with the limited number of facilities, and we haven't increased them since your children probably played, the difference is that there's never a time to take one of those fields out now and say, I'm going to fix that field. I'm going to rest that field for a season. Because once you do that, you now have no capacity. So it's a huge puzzle that ultimately causes once you take one major thing out, to give it a year to re-sod it, reseed it, re-aerate it. The minute you do that, you have nowhere to play again because we were at such a limited capacity from the first place because you don't have the chance to maintain your facility. So the answer was, go to the Board of Education. Right? They got fields, and we've done that. Right? We built one on Nut Swamp, and we built a grass one on Nut Swamp, and we built something at Croydon, and we've done stuff at Lincroft Acres, and we've done stuff at Fairview. Fairview and Lincroft Acres are ours, but the Board of Education, you kind of run out of space with them too when they say, yeah, we need this for the kids that play at the high school. We need this for the kids that play at the middle school. So, hey, Middletown, you're not allowed to play here. Middletown Board of Education stopped St. Mary's 1,200 kids in the spring. And I know this because my wife was having knee surgery when I'm getting calls from the president of St. Mary's saying, we have nowhere to play our kids because they took away Thorn and Harmony. And what were we going to do? Where are we going to put 1,200 kids now? 1,200 kids can no longer play soccer in Middletown Township if that happens. Thankfully and fortunately, cooler heads prevailed and we were able to find a suitable location. 2 months ago, maybe 1 month ago, Lincroft Flag Football has 900 kids playing at Thompson Middle School on Sunday for 4 hours. These kids don't really do any damage to the field for 4 hours at Thompson Middle School. Board of Education says, you're not permitting those fields to Lincroft Flag Football anymore. Because our middle school, my daughter gets to play on those fields and they're in rough shape, but we're not going to allow the kids to do that. So the problem is a little bit more than just, and we're in a very, you see, listen, I hear what you're saying, and I'm totally with you, and I'm a parent too, I'll never vote for a safety issue, okay? Get that through everybody, let's make that clear. Despite what you're going to hear politically, okay, despite what you're going to hear door-to-door campaign-wise, because we're in silly season, I will never put my kids at risk, okay? Yeah, it's silly season, come September, October, into November, we call it silly season in the political world. Okay, but I'll never put my kids at risk. And I'll never put your kids at risk. So this was a concept. Nothing is in stone. But to say that we're just going to buy property, we would have done it already. How many of you want to spend $25, $30, $40 million to buy Village 35? Not going to happen because your taxes will go 12-fold. Not going to happen because I'm not going to pay 12-fold taxes myself. Right? So that's the quagmire. But I just wanted to address the full scope of the situation that this governing body is trying to balance need versus location versus simple concept, because you got to start somewhere. Maybe this goes, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's a committee that's going to do this in 5 years, maybe it won't. But there ain't going to be any fields in there anytime soon, based on a concept.
If I could just add a couple things. First of all, I kind of went to high school, not too differently from the time you went to high school here. And if you remember, there was no such thing as lacrosse. So it's a whole new sport with a whole new demographic of kids who play it, right? The other things that's changing is that there's a de-emphasis on contact football for kids. People are switching to either soccer or flag football. So there are more kids looking for fields than there were, even though there aren't more kids here. I agree with you. Our population has tailed off and our school population has dropped. So the fact is, you just got more participation. And now they start at 4. To me, 4-year-old soccer is ridiculous. But they play at 4 now. So I think it's insane that there's people signing their kids up to play at that age. But the big thing that I wanted to address is that somehow this is coincidental with Mr. Stevenson passing away. You know, the township tried to put two fields at Lanecroft Acres about 8 years ago, maybe a little more. Two more fields. Two fields are now trying to build two more fields. Absolute opposition. Why? Because trees were going to have to be taken down. So the person who said, "Oh, just buy this property, take down the trees," that doesn't go over so well with the neighbors. So we couldn't build two more fields at Lanecroft Acres because they didn't want trees to come down. Then the township bought property on Middletown Lanecroft Road, 15 acres to put two fields on. What happened? Everyone said, "Oh, don't build a sports complex here." Two fields was considered a sports complex at the time. Massive opposition, didn't happen. Then the township wanted to take two existing fields on West Front Street at the other end by Everett Road or West Front Street Park and just convert them into synthetic turf fields so they'd get more use year round. No opposition to that. Too much traffic. We don't want to hear all that. So don't do it. So it's no coincidence. It has nothing to do with Mr. Stevenson's recent passing. Middletown for 10 years has been trying to find a place to put even two fields, and no one wants it. And you know what everyone says at the same meeting? We support youth sports, just not here. You've got the wrong place this time. Well, I guess we've got the wrong place again, but no one has found the right place. So I challenge anybody to pick the right place. And when we have a hearing on that place, and this room is full of people who don't want it there, you come to that meeting and say, "No, it really should be there, but not by me." And see how well that goes.
In the back, please.
I'll go back. I can talk very loud.
Man, yeah, come up here, please.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Deborah Harry. I live at 882 West Front Street, and I'm right on the edge of the lake and right at the swampy end that has not been cured by all the herbicide that has been put in for the past 3 or 4 years. I understand that, this is a very difficult and, complex problem. My concern is what I call riparian rights, which is part of my deed. And I think that the wetlands aspect of this property is something that is protected by the state. And indeed, most of the country has that. So, to spend money and, have the proper surveys done so that we know exactly, what is doable, I think is a primary step that has to be taken before, all of this consideration about people's, comfort and, danger or safety and, what the kids need and I think it's a moot point until we know exactly what's possible. And a proper survey has to be done. I don't know how much that costs, but I think it's something that we should really consider.
And you're exactly correct. And that's what we've tried to stress here this evening.
Okay.
Is that the only action this governing body has taken has been an application to the county for a $250,000 grant with regard to phase 1 of this project. There's been no engineering done with regard to this project. In fact, the concept plans, Ted, were by your office, right? So the concept plans were not by one of our municipal engineers, but was by our in-house engineer. So there's been no engineering done.
No, it has to be done by
Right.
an outside.
So all of those things that were mentioned here tonight, to your point, still must be investigated. And again, if any or all of those items turn up such that they are more negative than they are positive, you will not see this project move forward.
Will that survey be done by more than, one company, or will that be an outside
We
sewer?
don't know the answer to that question yet. Again, the first phase of this is we've applied to the county for grant. If the county sees fit to provide the township with a matching grant, then we will have those discussions. But to everyone's point here, again, this is not a completed project. It's at the very beginning stages, and we still have to investigate all those items. So to your point, so thank you very much for that.
I do think there are other pieces of land available, and I don't know how far away you're allowed to go, whether it has to be on town property or whether it can be leased or purchased, up there near Holland, Holland Drive or whatever it is, up on the hill.
I mean, if you do have other suggestions, please let us know, or you can chat with the administrator afterwards, and we'll be happy to look at it.
I mean, what about the ATT property?
We can't just take their land.
You can't just take their what?
Their land if it's on AT.
No, I know, but I mean, a deal, there's all kinds of deals that can be made, right?
We're pretty good making deals.
I understand.
But AT&T, again, the issue with AT&T's property, first of all, they have very tight security issues. They don't share the property with anyone. That would be a problem. Secondly, there's, again, a lot of trees would have to come down on that property, and a lot of land disturbance would have to happen there. And I'm sure we'd have the same discussion there. And that's even in the very unlikely circumstance that AT&T would let us do it. I seriously doubt it. They don't share the property with anyone. They have very security contracts.
Yeah, okay.
The other property on Holland Road is a county park. And the Long County is not going to allow fields on that park.
Okay. Well, I'm trying.
No?
Thank you very much.
Don and Sarah, 16 Wilson Place.
Thank you.
As far as everybody's concerned, it's nice that everybody came out, but basically...
Sir, can you speak, I'm sorry, can you speak into the microphone, please? Thank
Basically,
you.
from what I'm understanding is that these people have a great deal of concern that we're coming close to their property in Shady Oaks. Is there, Mr. Maloney, is there going to be a tree line buffer separating it by chance? But is there a tree line buffer separating? No. To the best of my knowledge, Shady Oaks has a big tree line buffer separating between Stevenson Park.
There are some trees in between there.
Correct. So I heard two people mention that that's what they're going to be looking at. Are there railroad tracks in close proximity to that complex?
There's government railroad tracks now,
So we have a farm that we're trying to propose to put 2 fields in to allow the children in this community to come in. I just don't see the big, I'm not understanding why this is a problem. I heard some people at the last meeting complaining about traffic on West Street, and there's plenty of traffic flow going up and down. We're talking about 2 fields and a handful of soccer games.
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
Are we talking about 2 soccer fields? Our first proposal, yes or no?
Yes.
We're talking about 2 soccer fields.
In the grant application, it's a 2 soccer.
2 soccer fields. That could be lacrosse or soccer. So that means that there's 2 teams at a time. The likeliness of 2 fields at the same time being played for more than 4 to 6 hours a day is highly unlikely. These fields will probably only be weekend use. Shady Oaks is a condominium-owned community which you own a joint parcel and you own your unit. You don't own the land there. There's plenty of land surrounding in between. And I just don't see how there's going to be any adverse effect or detriment to that. I just don't see how there's going to be any detriment to value that everybody's so concerned. I think by bringing these fields in, it's going to help the values of Middletown, it's going to help rise with these things, and it's going to help people. I can see everybody's concerned, but these children are our future, and if we don't provide for them, I gave everybody else respect and didn't speak when they were speaking. I'd just like to see, because I pay taxes too, and mine are a lot of money. So these children are our future, and if we don't provide them with a good place to play, they're going to be up to no good. And Middletown is an awesome town. I've been here almost 50 years. And I love everything about Middletown, and I love these people up here, because they're not up here for a salary. These people are up here to make our town better. And if we can cut off every chance we have of our future, and try not to allow these fields, and everybody keeps pushing us around, these kids are going to have nowhere to go. If they have nowhere to go, they're going to be up to no good. And I just think think that everybody should reconsider being upset and allow these bills to go through. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, in the back, please.
I don't think he's seen it.
Thank you. My name is Paul Berry. I live at 15 Page Drive, which is right off West Road. And I certainly appreciate the not-backyard problems that we all have. Having said that, this seems to be very ill-conceived, purely from a traffic perspective. So I've lived there for 12 years. I didn't do an official traffic survey, but I'm going to bet that the traffic is more than double along West Front Street in that period. It sometimes takes me 3 to 4 minutes to get out of Page or Alexa, whichever, and it's not easy and it's not safe. That whole stretch from the railroad tracks up to half-mile road, sometimes there are as many as 20 or 30 or 40 cars lined up in both directions. People cut through parts of the Walkway and sneak back onto the West Front and half-mile. It's just a terrible location. Even if you were to widen the street, it would just increase the traffic. It would make the speeders going faster from the light down to the west. So we should have the next meeting at 4:30 on West Front Street. I think we would discuss that. Thank you, Judge.
Thanks, sir. Ma'am, in the back, please.
Hi, Carol Fleming, 49 Grand Way. I don't live near West Front Street or anything, but I just had an idea. I mean, it doesn't seem like that's a really good area for the field, but please don't get mad about what I'm going to say. It's just an idea. For Village 35, I know we can't buy it, I know the developer owns it or whatever, but since it's an area in need of redevelopment, I don't know if you could maybe ask the developer or require to put some fields there. I mean, instead of so much space for that silly mall and townhouses, maybe tell them, since you're putting in housing, like, what are the requirements? One of the things our town needs are more fields. So maybe they would consider putting 2 fields. I mean, that's a really big area, but it's right in the center of town. It's people from north, south. It's right on 35. It's really convenient. I mean, I think that we wouldn't mind having the fields there. I mean, it would be better than what's going there.
So we can ask, but they don't have, we can ask, but if they say no, what's the alternative?
Can you put any requirements in for that?
We can't.
Okay, I was just asking.
Anyone else? Ma'am?
Hi, my name is Jane Denton. I live at 91 by Berkeley Terrace in Shady Oaks. We've been there, my husband and I just moved from Tinton Falls. Our home in Tinton Falls backed up to Monmouth Regional. So for 37 years, I've been listening to football games, track meets, soccer, and practices. And I certainly understand the need for kids. I work in Homedale, I'm a school nurse. I support sports. I'm an advocate of sports. It's great for our kids, our youth. But we moved to Shady Oaks for quiet, to escape all of the 37 years of round-the-clock sports. Now, I get, Mr. Fiore, you mentioned your wife had a knee replaced. Part of reconstructed.
She's only 38. 37.
Rheumatoid arthritis, that's in at all ages, can deteriorate. So, my point is the quality of life. You have the noises going on. You have the sporting events. You have all of the noise that goes on. and there's no way around it. I have a buffer, we still own the property, Tinny Falls. We have a buffer of about 100 feet of woods. It doesn't stop the noise. Now, we don't have light shining in our back, but the noise, and if you're not feeling well and have a population in Shady Oaks and Shadow Lake of older people who are more prone to having knee replacements, hip replacements, cancer, and struggling with other health issues, you give those people 24 hours, day in and day out, and I know I'm exaggerating, I understand that, but you get my point of view. You understand where I'm coming from. Put yourself, you're not feeling well, and now all of a sudden, you've got rugby, you've got soccer, and you've got all of these other events going on. So I'm just asking you, just put yourself in that position. Just consider not feeling well, having to listen to it all the time, and we're really not getting away from it. And I did move to get away from it. And here I find myself, we invest a lot of money in this place to renovate it all. And now I find I'm sort of faced with the same dilemma, possibly all over again. So I do thank you. I do appreciate the hard work that everyone on this board has put into all of this, your time, your energy. But please consider the human aspect that all of us are going to, or potentially going to have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Thank you.
Anyone else this evening? Sir?
I'm Mr. Tito, I live at 61 Quincy Court in Shady Oaks. And I'm going to fill the litany of things you've heard before. You've heard it all. There are a lot of things that are not speaking well of this project you're going into. You talk about it being a concept. There are a lot of concepts that should be nipped in the bud before they get as far as this one. I also want to talk about the fact that this gentleman over here made a remark about we have not presented any solutions to you. Well, that's not our responsibility to do that. You ran for public office. It's your responsibility to weigh all these things together. And I fully realize it isn't easy, but you asked for it.
We're willing to accept that.
And then you have to do it and you have to weigh it. Obviously, there are a lot of kids in town that deserve recreational facilities. But you heard from the people that live where I live, and it is going to impact us extremely harshly. Nobody has said anything here tonight that would lead me to believe that we're going to get out of this without some damage. Our taxes are what they are. We're going to have to go after relief on taxes if the property values in our area go down. Just keep in mind that we are taxpayers. We do support this community. We are older. We're not in good shape, some of us anymore. But we do thank you for what you do for us. But keep in mind, everybody has his own self-interest. You do too. I've heard a great deal of what I would consider defensive talk tonight from the board. Probably justifiable in the sense that we're attacking what you're trying to do. But you have to consider the fact that we understand that. And we are sympathetic to the problems you have. I hope you're sympathetic to ours.
Sir? Name and address, please.
Anthony Bruscus, 786 Novo Road.
Thank you.
I know a lot of people here are longtime residents of Middletown. I'm not a longtime resident. I'm actually I've grown up here. I was born and raised in Middletown. I'm looking to grow up here for the rest of my life. Hopefully, buy a house and whatnot. I've loved it. I've loved this town. How I grew up here and everything. I'm not going to speak on specifically this one site that everyone's talking about, but just to give a little bit of perspective to everyone about how fast the sports are growing. in high school, I probably wasn't about going to be playing sports, but lacrosse had a great opportunity for me to play a new sport that, because I wasn't that well versed in sports, it was something that everyone was starting out with. I played in the inaugural season. Our first season, we had 2 teams in Middletown. The second season, we had 6 in the entire town. So that means our first season, we had 2 junior varsity teams, one from Middletown South and one from Middletown North. The second year, I think it was the second year, we had a varsity team, a junior varsity team, and a freshman team at both schools. And also, we had recreational leagues as well. This is a huge opportunity for their entire town. Speaking on myself, I think that playing lacrosse those 2 years I played in high school really changed my life. It was the best thing I could have ever done. And we, even though it's only Board of Ed fields, the Board of Ed needs these fields because we did not really have space to play for second year. We had to go in the back south a field that was full of ruts. It was just not well maintained at all. When it rained in a single week, we could barely play in the field without risking injury. I think that everyone should take into consideration that there are a lot of people here who are stakeholders in this project, more than just the homeowners adjacent. And there's a lot of people looking to live in this town for longer than just from when they buy the house on. There's a lot of people looking to live in this town in the future. I think people need to take into consideration those points.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Turn it back, please.
Tom Patton out of 83 Harvard Green Circle. So we had spoke about earlier, my big thing is the traffic. I mean, I live in the area, I just heard about the project, I saw the park was closed for a while. Harvard Green cuts through, on the Saturday when it's busy, it speeds up. Time everyone gets on to work, cars fly in and out. So the kids going to be playing on the fields, they're not going to be playing each other from their neighbor, they're playing kids from other towns. They're taking the parkway, coming off 109 and sitting on half Lombard. Then they're going to cut through Harvard Green. Or they're coming from West Front, and they can't make the left because there's no shoulder and there's no way to get around. So that one car that's sitting there and can't get in is going to back that thing up all the way across the tracks, past the naming room and everything. So I pulled in there yesterday, and it wasn't just to see what was going on. I don't see how you're going to get in there. Like, there's no room. And the bridge, how long have you guys been planning on, like, proposing to put soccer fields in there?
How long?
Yeah, was it an idea that you possibly get in there? You said that, before students die, right? So you would think before you spend $1 million on a bridge, you might make it a little bit bigger or to work towards where the bigger goal is. So I mean, and I can see the concern, like 2 fields, yeah, maybe 2 fields won't hurt anybody. Yeah, a couple people. But that just opens the door for 9. And when 9 fields come, it's a whole different ballgame. My concern is traffic, so that's all. All right, thank you for your time.
Anyone else this evening?
Yeah, right here.
Sir.
I'm Steve Madigan from 106 Vernon Terrace in Shady Oaks. As you proceed with this project, please consider that Stevenson Bridge failed. Middletown began to cut through our property without notice. We granted an easement. The bridge was finished at the beginning of the summer. The access road is still open. People still come through our property, which is until that cut through, what's it called, access, single we have suffered, as you indicated initially, you were going to service the Stevenson house. Then we were servicing the people that came through to work on the farm, to help with their physical problem. Then we began to get the voters through. So there has built up between ourselves and Shady Oaks and the town a certain skepticism. The connection, an electrical connection was to be made between the power utility and the Stevenson home. The town granted access to the electric company to cross our property lines and make that connection without notifying us beforehand. You had no permission, and you went ahead. So please, in considering this project, be respectful of our rights.
Sir, thank you for your comments. With regard to the additional ingress and egress, I'm not speaking of the bridge. As we, if the county grants the application, and as we review the concept, and I'll speak for myself, not my members of the governing body, I certainly would be willing to look at some type of regulated gate at that ingress and egress, so that only authorized personnel can use it, and it's not a free-for-all cut-through as part of a potential concept.
I propose that access road be closed permanently.
That rear ingress and egress has always been there as an emergency access. It's not going to go away. That is there for emergency purposes. So when the Stevenson, when the bridge went out, that became an emergency because we had a couple who lived on the property. We needed to get their mail. We needed to get an ambulance to them. People who possibly were on the lake who maybe needed to get rescued. So it was an emergency access way. And it's not true that we didn't notify you. We met with your attorney and the head of your association at the time and explained to them what was going to be happening and told them that this was going to be used for emergency purposes and used for routine access for the Stevensons while the bridge was out. So they knew that, all well and good. So that's not true that they were not notified at all. They were, we discussed it with them. Then the Impact Oasis group who started farming the property, who a program for special needs children, asked if they could access it because they were doing some work on the farm. We again spoke to your association and your attorney and got it okayed by them that group would be able to go use that entryway to access their farm. In fact, I believe some of the residents of your community work with them on that farm. So it's not fair to suggest that you guys weren't notified of that. You were. That has always been an emergency access. Now, once the bridge is open and that becomes the primary access point, there can be a gate or a chain or something put across there because we don't want people using it on a regular basis and we won't allow that.
Why has it taken since the beginning of summer until perhaps October to put a chain up
Because,
and to repair the property that you crossed?
well, first of all, most of that is township's property. But second of all,
Most of it is township property,
Yes.
but there is about a 15-foot stretch that is our property, and you have filled that with coarse gravel, and that gravel is scattered all over the road.
right,
And-
we had to make sure that that was an access way that could safely be traversed by an ambulance or a fire engine if it needed to get through there. So we had to make it a safe access way. And we have done that.
Why has it not been closed yet?
As someone mentioned tonight, there was just an item on the agenda for a change order. That project is not 100% complete yet. So it hasn't been accepted as a complete project. We just did a change order tonight on our agenda for that bridge project. So just because you can drive across it doesn't mean it's finished. When it's finished, that will become a safety route in and out only, and it will be chained off. And the ground will be restored to a condition that it's accessible that still has to be accessible in case there is an emergency, in case something does happen on the main road that prevents the emergency vehicles from getting in and out of there. They're still going to be able to need that piece, that access point in the back if there's an emergency on the site. So it will always be there as an emergency driveway, but it will only be used in an emergency once the bridge is open.
Will you restore that portion of the property that is ours to its original condition?
Yes, we'll restore to a drivable condition. It has to still be accessible, but yeah, there won't be stone there.
Will there be a curb? And will there be?
All right, I'll tell you what, are you on your homeowners association? Are you on the board? You on the board of the homeowners association? Okay, well, we'll meet with your association, with your attorney, and we'll decide on what the appropriate remedy is for repairing that.
Will you restore it to the condition it was in prior to the failure of the bridge?
Well, we will meet with your association, and we'll work out how that needs to be done. Are you here representing the association?
I'm not.
Okay, so we will meet with the association and work out what needs to be done. And also, the JCPM access, you guys knew about that, it was discussed with you.
I beg your pardon.
Yes, you did.
We did not know in advance of their action. We saw them working, and we asked them to sign.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Ma'am, you have to come up, please. Thank you.
My name is Florence Prospect, and I live in Shady Oaks, and I have a question. This never came up. Are you planning on putting up legal lights?
No, ma'am.
Seals?
No, ma'am. That was a rumor that was put out there about sound systems and lights, and that is 100% inaccurate. There was no lights or sound systems involved in this application. Zero.
Anyone else wish to be heard this evening?
Yes.
Sir.
My name is Jim Connors, I live at 64 Smoke Tree Terrace in Shady Oaks. I'm a resident here for just over a year. I'm not going to repeat everything anybody else said. My question to you guys is this. Before you apply for a $250,000 grant from the county, how much would it cost you to do a survey of traffic before you even go ahead with this? Because I think the Front Street issue is the most tantamount issue as far as safety and egress are concerned. Number one. Number two, somebody mentioned before, I think, I'm not sure if it was Mr. Fiore, that we don't have a great working relationship with the Board of Education. We used to. That's fine. I would say that maybe 60% of my taxes go to the schools. Is that rough? Is that my accuracy? 66. Okay, so I was low boy. Okay. Maybe we should vote in or vote out someone who will be more agreeable to working with you guys. Because you call it silly season. Yep. I call it taxation season. You're right. So maybe that's what we should be doing instead of sitting here twiddling our thumbs and worrying about what these gentlemen are proposing, and maybe just vote a few of these clowns out of office. Believe me, I don't know. They're bad comment of mine. I apologize. My point is that there has to be a traffic survey done before you even apply for this grant. I don't know what it will cost, but it's going to cost you that eventually. Get that done, and if it says no, then it's no. And everybody here will walk away happy.
Really?
Thank
you. If it said yes, then we'll be okay?
If it said yes, you could proceed. I didn't say we'd be happy.
You did.
I said I'd be happy.
You said, I know you didn't mean it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to be heard this evening on any matter? All right, seeing none, a motion to close to the public and adjourn the meeting.
Second.